are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharpe. Good morning.
Morning. Bling, bling, Shannon.
What's going on over here?
I'm all about the bling. Every day I'm about the bling. Thanks to Lil Wayne.
That looks
I got
amazing.
my Wayne necklace on now. It's my turn.
Huh.
Thank you very much. It's game over. Should we just stop the show right now? Because you got no shot today.
You know, your boy keep it, I keep mine on.
Oh, you got
I keep mine on. I keep mine.
You know, your name is just too long.
No. That's
You know,
what
just
you
Few
want
extra
down.
diamonds?
You
Few
want
extra
one down.
You
diamonds?
need a four-letter name because people always call me four-letter names.
They call me Shay. You know, so that's it. But he didn't go with that.
Oh, really?
But you know this whole Pollyanna Penny don't have hers on.
Okay.
She looks just
Hey.
fine.
I like that. I like
Too
that.
much. Guys, Skip, that looks great.
All
I
right,
feel
here
like
we go.
Something special is going to go on today with everyone rocking these. We have so much
Not
to
the
get to
Cowboys.
on the show. How concerned should the Panthers be about Cam Newton's injury? That is unfortunately to report. And then should the Giants just go ahead and start Daniel Jones week 1?
Please.
We'll go there,
no.
but we are going to start down in Miami. Dolphins head coach Brian Flores said his decision to play 8 straight Jay-Z songs in Tuesday's practice was intended to, quote, challenge wideout Kenny Stills, wanting the receiver to be able to ignore outside distractions. This came after Stills was critical of Jay-Z's new role with the NFL. Jay-Z told reporters it was time to move past kneeling when asked about Colin Kaepernick, and Stills took exception to this, saying Jay-Z is not a player and has never been on a knee. Stills also said Jay-Z's comments discredited Colin Kaepernick's protests and work. So, Shannon, what do you make of Flores' explanation on this?
A challenge for who, Skip? Skip, this is what he said. He said it was a challenge for to Kenny to perform regardless of what's going on outside. I would say that he hasn't performed up to the level of the course of training camp. So that's the challenge, to get open, to catch the football, make plays for your team. So if you feel this way, why not do this before this alleged beef with Jay-Z? Do you feel this is the only way that you can motivate him? So let me get this correct, Brian Flores. If I'm having problems at home with my girlfriend or wife, you gonna bring her ass to practice? Because you want me to, Skip, I gotta get past everything now, remember?
That's a fair point.
He sounds ridiculous. We know what this is about. This is about making sure Kenny Stills stay in line. Because it seems like he was trying to appease one guy he was supporting one guy, Skip, as opposed to supporting the other guy. That's what it sounds like to me. Skip, this Jay-Z. Now, he knows this man has a problem. Well, has a problem with some of the things that Jay-Z said. I don't know if he has a problem with Jay-Z itself, but some of the things that he said. And so you choose this way to motivate him. That's the only way you know, huh? You didn't bring him in and talk to him. Did you have a conversation? Kenny, what's going on, bro? You got something going on? Because the Kenny Stills that I know, that I've coached against over the last several years, this is not the Kenny Stills that I see.
That is true.
You could
Hasn't played up to the old Kenny Stills.
say that.
Okay.
Find something. But now, after this, you wait to this moment to say, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. Oh, you got beef, you're not focusing, you're not practicing, practicing the way and making plays that I think you can. Oh, you got to beef with Jay-Z? Okay, I'm going to play 8 straight Jay-Z songs. Yeah, this is ridiculous.
8 straight?
8 straight. Really? Really,
Message.
Skip? I mean, come on, Brian. You're going to have to do a better job. I hate when you have to motivate. Sometimes you do, Skip. Every guy's not self-motivated, and certain guys have different stimuli that gets them motivated. Some guys, you can pat them on the back. Some guys, you got to kick in the butt. And some guys, you just got to ride. The main job of the coach is to find out what stimuli works best for each individual player.
That's true.
But for me, if Kenny Stills had not been performing, at what point did you pull him aside and say, Kenny, I need you to play better? Was it before after he had this beef with Jay-Z that you decided, you know what, this is how I'm going to motivate him? Skip, I don't buy it. Brian Flores did this for a reason and not for the reason that he alleges.
I agree. I think this cut deeply into Brian Flores. And I'm going to remind everyone, he's a first-year head coach. He's only 38 years of age. And remember, Kenny Stills is now 27, so their cultural age gap is not great.
Right.
It's just 11 years. So I'm going to also remind everybody, even though Brian Flores is not really cut from the same cultural cloth as Bill Belichick,
Right.
he grew up under Bill.
He's on that tree.
He watched Bill occasionally grandstand in different ways, send messages in different glaring ways to Malcolm Butler during the Super Bowl.
Right.
Your ass is on the bench. I'm going with my guy that I stole from Philadelphia, Eric Reid, and we're still going to win this game. You know what happened there, but that's a whole nother story. He watched, even here recently, Bill Belichick just flat out cut the punter who could have been the MVP of the Super Bowl because he drafted a kid. He felt like he stole him in the 5th round out of Stanford. And he said, this kid will be a better punter than that kid was. So Brian Flores, this was a grandstand move. It was in Kenny Stills' face. And I'm going to go a cut deeper. Even though it may have been to motivate, and you say it's the wrong way to motivate, maybe that was the superficial reason here.
Correct.
That he's just not playing up to Kenny Stills. And maybe he's saying, you're so distracted by all of your social media, what's the best word? Campaigning, your
Social media presence. I mean, he spends a lot
he's
of
just
time.
so caught up in it because he's constantly reacting and reading to social media.
Right.
Maybe he's saying that your head is so in there that we've lost you on this football team.
Okay.
Now, is that the way to get his head back into football with 8 straight Jay-Z songs? I don't think so either, which is why I'm going a cut deeper here. Brian Flores also said to the media in explaining what he was doing that he said, quite honestly, they, meaning Cap, Kenny, Eric Reid, they're bringing attention to my story because he thinks he lived the story harder than they lived the story. Brian Flores grew up in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, about 3 miles from where Jay-Z grew up in Bed-Stuy. 2 rough neighborhoods. So Brian Flores goes on telling the media, I'm a son of immigrants. I'm black. I grew up poor. I grew up in New York during the stop and frisk era. So I've been stopped, blah, blah, blah. And he goes into the whole thing and he said, I applaud those guys for what they are doing, but I don't know how many people have, but I have lived it in ways even you in South rural Georgia did not live that kind of, of upbringing. Okay. So he's saying he relates to Jay-Z, and I'm going to bet you he's a big Jay-Z fan.
Right.
And I think he took it a little personally that Kenny would dare to have the audacity to take a shot at Jay-Z, which he had just done the day before these songs were played.
Right.
Am I right?
I agree.
Okay. So he's saying, so guys in the locker room are still counting on Kenny to get open, catch the football, and perform for this team. And that's the superficial reason. But I'm going one cut deeper, and tell me if I'm wrong because this is my 2 cents from a distance. I think he was offended that Kenny Stills, who grew up in Carlsbad, California, which is about 35 miles just north of San Diego, so it's deep Southern California, and I do not know Carlsbad, so I don't know his economic plight or existence, you know, the upbringing.
Right.
It could have been pretty rough. Was it Brownsville or Bed-Stuy? Probably not. Probably not. I don't know that for a fact, but again, I know Kenny Stills well enough to know. I think he grew up, he was well-raised, he's well-mannered, he's very well-spoken. I think Brian is saying, basically, who the hell are you to criticize Jay-Z, okay?
Skip, this is where I would push back with Brian Flores because Ben Franklin had a famous quote. He says, change comes about when the unaffected is equally as impacted as those that are affected. So even though Kenny Stills did not go through that, he's willing to fight for it.
He is.
Because if you only get guys, you only get a person or people that have only experienced that, or they're the only ones that's willing to fight, it's going to be a very short fight. A very short fight.
Okay. So is it possible that Brian Flores just acted out of anger just to put Kenny back in his place? Do you see that?
That could possibly be because he's like, you know, because he was early on, he said, Skip, you know, I agree, you know, Kenny makes some compelling points, but he should have reached out to Stephen Ross first. Although Stephen Ross didn't reach out to Kenny Stills and say, you know, I'm holding this fundraiser for President Trump. So you want him to afford a courtesy that he wasn't afforded. Skip, it sounds like to me that Brian Flores wants Kenny Stills to get in line with what we know where he wants.